What's up everybody, welcome to another video. Hope you're ready to flex those brain muscles. In this video we're going to practice multiplying polynomials, just like the one shown here, applying the distributive property. So in our last video we multiplied binomials like this, and we thought about the acronym FOIL as a way to help us remember what to multiply and then add together. So first, outer, inner, and last terms. This is a way for us to remember what exactly we multiply. The problem is FOIL doesn't work once we get to polynomials. Like examples like this, FOIL won't work. That's why a lot of teachers just don't like FOIL. So if you've never heard that acronym, just ignore it. So instead of applying FOIL, we're going to think about what we're actually doing when we're multiplying these binomials, right? And think about it from a slightly different perspective. So these first two terms, right, that's the first thing we do, is we take this product, and then we take the product of the outer terms. Notice these are on the outside. So how can we think of this differently than just an acronym? Well, we could say we're taking this first term in this first expression, and we're multiplying it by everything in the second expression. Okay, this is our first and our outer steps put together. That's what we're doing. So a slightly different perspective we can think about. We're looking at the first expression, we're looking at the first term, and we're multiplying that by everything in the second expression. Okay, then what are we doing? We're moving on to the inner and last terms here. So again, we're looking at our first expression here, and now we're multiplying these two inner terms and these two last terms. So what did we do? We moved on in the first expression, but to the next term, right? To the second term. And we did the same thing we did to the first term. We multiplied that by everything in the second expression, and that was our inner and last steps combined. So if we can think of the process this way, then we can actually generalize this to multiplying any two polynomials together. So again, what was this process? Just to re-explain it, we look at the first expression here. We zoom into the first term, and we multiply that by everything in the second expression. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3 products this time. Then once we've done that, we go back to this first expression, and we move on to the next term here, this -5. And we do the same thing. We're going to multiply that by everything in this second expression. So 3 more products. So in this case, instead of adding 4 terms together, first, outer, inner, last, I'm going to have 6 of them. Okay, hopefully that's making some sense. Let's go ahead and try it. I'm going to start with x. I'm going to multiply x by 3x squared. The 3 is just chilling, and x times x squared is x cubed. I have 3 of them multiplied together. All right, now we're moving on. The next thing here, x times -2x. So the -2 is just chilling, and x times x is x squared. All right, here's the last one. Boom, going all the way to the end. This is x times 2. We can just write as plus 2x here. Awesome. So we've done our first part of this process, which is taking this first term, multiplying by everything in this second expression. Now we're going to move on to this next term, -5. All right, so we're going to take -5, and we're going to multiply that by everything in this second expression now. So -5, remember, I need to keep this negative with it. That's the most common mistakes made, are sign errors. So -5 times 3 is -15, and then the x squared is just chilling. All right, so that's our first one here. Next, this one also has a negative, so this is negative times negative. That's a positive. I can go ahead and write that. 2 times 5 is 10, and then the x is just chilling out in front there. Finally, -5 times +2. Negative times a positive is a negative. 2 times 5 is 10. Boom. We've done this multiply step. Now all we have to do is this simplify step. So I'm looking for like terms. 3x cubed, that is the only x cubed term. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that down, 3x cubed. Let's see, I see 2x squared terms, -2x squared and -15x squared. So I can combine these to be -17x squared. One way to think about it is this is subtracting x squared twice. This is subtracting it 15 more times for a total of subtracting it 17 times. We can do the same thing here with 2x and 10x. We're adding 2 of these x's, then adding 10 more for a total of 12 x's being added together, and then we have this -10 just chilling out in front. So we did the multiply. Now we've done the simplify, and boom, that's it. Hopefully you're seeing this is actually not that bad. Let's try our next example here. So for this example, we're doing the exact same thing. First expression, that's what we're looking at. We're going to take the first term, and we're going to multiply it by everything in the second expression. Let's go and start that. So we'll go one at a time here. We're starting with 2x squared times x squared. We have a 2 chilling out in front, and x squared times x squared is x to the 4th. One way to think about it is we have two x's being multiplied together. If we multiply two more, we have a total of 4 being multiplied together. All right, now 2x squared times negative 2x. So we're going to have a negative out in front. 2 times 2 is 4. And x squared times x, we have a total of 3 x's being multiplied together, x to the third power. Finally, 2x squared times 5. 5 times 2 is 10. It's positive, so we just write plus here, 10, and then the x squared just chills. Awesome. All right, let's erase and let's move on. Again, looking at our first expression, but this time looking at the second term, negative 3. So negative 3, remember I'm keeping the sign with the 3. Negative 3 times x squared is negative 3x squared. All right, negative 3 times negative 2x. Negative and negative, so I'm going to write a plus. 3 times 2, that's 6. And there's just one x chilling, so 6x. And then finally, negative 3 times 5, that is negative 15. And so we've done the multiply part, and now we just have to do the simplify part. So that looks for some like terms here. 2x to the fourth, that's the only to the fourth term. This is the only to the third term, so I can go ahead and copy those down. We have 2x to the fourth minus 4x to the third. And then where do we have some like terms? Right here. So we're adding 10 of these x squares and then taking away 3 of them. And so we are left with 7 of these x squareds being added together. So those are our like terms. And then we're just chilling with the 6x and the minus 15 hanging out. So only one pair of like terms this time. All right, we did the multiply. We've done the simplify. Boom. Let's move on to our last example here. And this is the point of the video where I encourage you, pause the video, try this on your own. Couple things different. One is that instead of x, we have k. That makes 0 difference, just a different letter, okay? The other thing that does make a difference is this time we have 2 trinomials. We haven't done that yet, but it's the exact same thing we've been doing, the same general strategy. We look at the first expression, we go to the first term, and we multiply that by everything in the second expression here. So 1, 2, 3 products I end up with here. Then I just move on to the next term in that first expression. So now I'm moving on to plus 3k, and I'm doing the same thing here, okay? And then finally, I'm moving on to the negative 2, and I'm doing the same thing here. So we're going to end up with a total of 9 products here, right? There's going to be 9 terms added together. All right, pause it. Try it on your own. Hopefully you've done it. You have a piece of paper out. You're waiting to check your work. Love that. All right, again, we're looking at the first here. We're going to multiply this by everything in the second expression. So 2k squared times k squared is 2k to the fourth. And then we're going to the next term here times negative 5k. So 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. And then k squared times k, that is k to the third power. And now we're moving on to the last one here. Sorry, my lines got a little unorganized. Minus 1, that's easy. It's just minus 2k squared. Awesome. Let me erase these. Now we're going to go back to this first expression and this time move on to the next term, this plus 3k here. So if I multiply positive 3k by k squared, I get 3k to the third power. If I multiply positive 3k by negative 5k, remember that negative comes along for the ride here. So positive times a negative is a negative. 3 times 5 is 15. And k times k is k squared. Awesome. And now I'm going on to this last term here, this minus 1. So that means minus 1 times 3k. We're going to subtract 3k. I'm going to have to make a new line here because I'm running out of room. Remember, we're ending up with 9 terms in this. So I just added a new line, which is fine. Next step, we're going to combine like terms and do all that. So it's all going to become one line, hopefully. All right, I'm moving on. What did I do? I did this. I multiplied that by everything, that everything. Now I'm on the negative 2 here. Negative 2 times everything. So negative 2 times k squared is minus 2k squared. Then negative 2 times negative 5k, negative, negative, that makes positive. 2 times 5, that is 10. The k is chilling. And then negative 2 times negative 1. Negative, negative makes a positive, so plus 2. And now I'm going to identify some like terms here. But we've done the multiply step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 terms, just like we expected. So now let's simplify. I only see one k to the fourth term. So I'm going to go ahead and write that. 2 times k to the fourth. All right, here's a k to the third. Are there any others? Yes, there's one here. So let's go ahead and combine those. Minus to the third. All right, k squared, we've got 3 of those, minus 2, minus 15, and minus 2 again, for a total of minus 19 k squared. Negative 2 minus 15 minus 2, that is negative 19. And now we have these k terms, negative 3 plus 10. So we have negative 3, we're adding 10, so we end up adding 7k. And then finally we have the 2 chilling, so plus 2. And so we've done the multiply, we've done the simplify, and this here's our final answer of this multiplied together and simplified. Hopefully this video helped. Like and subscribe, do all that stuff. Leave comments in the questions. Leave questions in the comments, but most importantly, keep flexing those brain muscles. I'll see y'all later.